Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shield does, lasers, peasants, vassals, meatacks. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And yeah, I watched the State of the Union address, the Obama State of the Union address, and as my regulars know, I try to watch every one that Obama does, and this one was no exception. I sit down with a pen and paper and I write down every lie. So of course I was very busy. All the other State of the Union addresses, and in fact my reviews were half an hour long, going over every little tidbit of bullshit that Obama spewed at these State of the Union addresses. So I sat down at this one, and I ended up not writing anything down. There was nothing there of import whatsoever. In fact, a couple places I almost nodded off. I suspect I had the thermostat set too high, or perhaps I drank too much before the State of the Union, one of the pitfalls of my profession. But anyway, I listened to the entire State of the Union, and it was nothing but bullshit. And my hats off to Mike Shedlock for stealing my thunder this year, calling bullshit on this State of the Union. But I can say that proudly that I have called bullshit on all of Obama's State of the Union addresses. And but this one was just pure bullshit, unadulterated bullshit, no peanuts, just slogans, fake populism, insinuations, lots of the usual vocal inflections, clever sayings, demographic points, more broad strokes, looking 5 to 10 years into the future, because he sure as hell doesn't want to talk about the last 7 years. And he did to a certain extent, bringing up these highlights, but once again in more broad strokes and on all the usual cliches, tons and tons of cliches. We got the equal pay for equal work, horseshit again, making college affordable, which is hilarious when it's at all-time highs, and we have well over $1 trillion in student loan debt. And then he talks about the rules and going after the corporations, and that never happened. And ballyhooing about entrepreneurs. Of course, the policies, economic policies of the last 8 years, and the last 20 years, and the last 30 years, and the last 40 years is to squeeze out entrepreneurs. And then he went on about green energy again, because that's kind of what we expect from him, and talked about kids and grandkids and fixing politics. We always we're going to fix politics and make voting easier. Yeah, we're going to make voting easier. So that's not going to happen. But some of these big ones I like to point out, because he talked about fixing politics, which is never going to happen. And then even better is starting off talking about hope and change. And he should have talked about fear and loathing, because the speech seemed to be more about fear and loathing than hope and change. But he had the balls to bring up hope and change again. And then talked about the war on terror, and held up the American military as able to crush all resistance around the world. And in fact, he focused in on the military leaders in the room at the time, and they looked like a bunch of old dudes set in stone. But that's another thing I wanted to bring up too, is that panning around the room, the camera. First of all, we had to see Lindsey Graham up close, which is frightening. And we also had to see John McCain all huddled and frail and freaked out in the corner, wetting himself. And that was disturbing to see that as well. But a room full of robots, a room full of bureaucrats, a room full of bootlickers, a room full of mannequins, a room full of lawyers. So I don't know what's changed. Like I say, perhaps I'm more cynical now, but I just saw a room full of Skeksis, like from Dark Crystal. And then, of course, the big kicker in the speech, which was the most laughable thing, is now he has decided in his last year in the White House that Obama's going to cure cancer. So yeah, good luck to him on that. And I think he stands a better chance of curing cancer than he does on closing Guantanamo. So I guess I misunderstood when he was running for president. He said something about closing down Guantanamo the first day in office, but as it turns out, he meant to say that he's going to close it down on his last day in office 8 years later. And that's pretty telling that the most dramatic moment of the entire 1 hour speech was his claim that he will indeed close down Guantanamo. I can honestly say that he's pretty much single-handedly closed down my desire to ever watch a State of the Union address again. I'm a useful idiot, don't you be one too?